Hi, guys. Welcome to episode number 1 of What the Heck's for Dinner. I gotta say, that phrase really triggers me because as a mom, working mom, I would come home and I swear to God, you'd hear it from like 3 different people just at the same time. What's for dinner? What's for dinner? What's for dinner? And nobody was happy with anything that you came up with. And everybody wants something different. It's a real sore spot with me. But I've found myself recently asking myself, what the heck is for dinner? Just nothing really sounds good a lot of times. It doesn't happen a lot, but it does happen from time to time. That being said, I am happy as a carnivore. I am happy with the diet plan I'm on, or lifestyle choice rather. It has cured all of my medical conditions and I have lost 100 pounds. So I'm in really good shape when it comes to my diet choices. But I get kind of in a rut with the options. Just eating the same thing all the time sometimes gets to me. I do want to clarify the difference. It's not that I'm missing all the other things that I used to eat that made me feel terrible, that were high inflammatory, like the inflammatory vegetables, or all of the starches and high carb food and standard American diet. I do not miss those things, and I do not crave those things. But what does happen to me is that the actual foods that I can eat that don't make me feel bad, I don't have a lot of inventive ways to make meals out of them. Like, I can't think of things that are new and exciting. So I look to the internet for that. And there's a lot of really good ideas out there, and a lot of good meals that people are making that are carnivore, you know a lot more that are keto, but there are quite a few that are carnivore, because you're kind of limited to, you're going to do something with eggs, you're going to do something with cheese, you're going to do something with, a handful of ingredients, and that's pretty much all you got. One of the videos that I did before was this board on carnivore, and I watched a handful of recipes, carnivore recipes that looked really good. I did, and as you see in the image here, this pizza, cloud bread pizza, looked really great, but I didn't know if it was going to be nasty or if it was really going to be good. So I did try it. So this is really a follow-up video to that one. So I did try this, and I'll show the images here. First of the actual crust, making the crust, and then making the pizza. And I have to say, this was amazing. If you've watched my channel before, you have probably already heard about my pork rind waffles, because I just won't shut up about them. It's a waffle recipe, and I'll show an image here. I do I have a video where actually I talk about how to make the pork rind waffles. It's very easy, very simple, and they are so good. My 22-year-old son didn't know that they were made out of pork rinds and eggs, basically. This recipe that we're going to look at today it's a channel called Crazy Ketos, and they do a carnivore French toast. So let's take a look at it and see if we think it's nasty or good. Jury's still out on this one. Actually, the name of the channel is Two Crazy Ketos. So let's take a look and see what they're making today.
So the first thing you're going to need is eggs.
Right.
So I have modified it a little bit. The original recipe called for 8 eggs. I have upped it to 10 because I find by having 10, it doesn't fall quite as much and it gives it a richer texture. So we're going to use 10 eggs in total. Then we need to have a block of cream cheese. You need 1 block, 8 ounces of cream cheese. And then you need a stick of butter, 8 tablespoons of butter. So it's a half a cup of butter. So it's kind of...
A lot of these ingredients are the same ingredients that are in the pork rind waffles that I make. In this recipe, he does not use pork rinds, but it's very similar base, because in the pork rind waffles, the base is a lot of eggs, a lot of butter, no cream cheese. But so you can see that, this is a variation on that. So it won't taste like, I'm sure, exactly like my waffles do, because you're going to have different textures and things like that, because when you add the pork rinds, it completely changes the texture of what you're eating. So this might be a little bit eggy.
Kind of simple. The original recipe was 888. Now we're going 10, 8, 8. So 10 eggs, 8 tablespoons of butter, and 8 ounces of cream cheese. And you want the cream cheese and the butter to be at room temperature. This is not gonna work right if you pull it right out of the refrigerator. So I would just put it on the counter about an hour or so before you wanna make it, or you can try to put it in the microwave for just like 10 seconds or so to soften it up, but you don't want it to melt.
Right.
The other thing that you're gonna need is some baking powder. And that's pretty much it. Now there are a couple of optional ingredients, and that's what we're gonna talk about. The first one, which is I think changes the whole recipe, is keto chow. Now, you can use other protein powders. So I wanna be clear, I have tried it with other protein powders. It does work with other protein powders. I think it works best with keto chow because keto chow is a milk protein isolate, and so it just adds to the fluffiness. But I have tried it with keto chow core, which is a beef protein, and it worked very well there. And I've tried it with products like Equip and stuff like that. So you can use other protein powders, but I find it works best with keto chow. Plus with keto chow, you're getting 1/3 of all of the vitamins, electrolytes, and nutrients that you need in this particular.
Okay, so another thing that I've really seen anytime I tried to make a recipe, well, I say anytime, it was the only time, but I made a recipe with protein powder. It was nasty and it really tasted nasty. Now, I don't 100% know if it was a protein powder I used or if it was the fact that it's protein powder in recipes with a lot of eggs that makes it nasty. But maybe you can comment down below if you've had a lot of experience with cooking with protein powder, because I did not have good experience when I used that before.
Particular recipe.
Plus, there's such a flavor variety.
Yeah, because every flavor is going to give you a different flavor of French toast. So we have tried this with just plain vanilla. I've tried it with chocolate. I've tried it with like, you know, different like things
Maple
like
waffle.
maple waffle. It works really well with it. The sticky bun one. It works really well with. It works good with caramel macchiato. Like any flavor you want, you're just adding that in and changing that. Now, along with that, you can enhance the flavors even more with a little bit of extract. So one of my favorite combinations now is to take the cake donut
Yes.
and mix in just like a quarter to a half a teaspoon of lemon extract.
So cake, donut, keto chow flavor along with the lemon extract.
Now that would also work well with other ones, like if you used the lemon meringue keto chow, or if you used vanilla.
That actually might be good. Adding lemon extract, a little bit of flavor to something like that with the, like he's saying, with the other vanilla. I think it was vanilla he was talking about. But that might actually be a good flavor combination. Now, if you tend to have a lot of inflammation from additives and things like that, even though I think keto chow products are fairly clean, if memory serves on that, if you have a lot of problem with inflammation, you might not be able to add all of these little bells and whistles to it. So you got to be careful about that. But if it doesn't bother you, you know, you're talking about very small amounts of ingredients here.
Vanilla keto chow. The other one that I found that works really, really well is to take vanilla keto chow, or it's actually what vanilla cream keto chow now, right? And then add in some drops of OOO cornbread.
Ooh.
And you end up with a sweet cornbread type of French toast.
It doesn't make you upset.
Perfect for dinners, perfect for breakfast. Let's get into actually making this. Okay, so the first thing we're gonna do is in a blender, we're going to take our 10 eggs.
Thanks, ladies in the backyard.
Then to that, we're going to add an entire brick of cream cheese.
Softened.
So 8 ounces softened, and an entire stick of butter. 8 ounces softened, or 8 tablespoons softened. And then what we're gonna do, don't do is, you know, what I'm doing, which is turn it on without a lid. So make sure you have it on low and turn it on. And I'm gonna turn it up a little bit. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna add in 1 packet of keto chow.
Or scoop if you have a big bag.
So for today, we're gonna use butterscotch. From there, I do advise at this point, put on your lid.
Put your top on.
And turn it up on high, and you're gonna blend this until it's blended really well. Okay, so after you've had it blending for a while and it's gotten mostly creamy, what we're gonna do is we're gonna add into this about 1/4 teaspoon of baking powder. And then we're gonna turn it back on high. And if you notice that stuff's not getting mixed from the side, feel free to use a spatula to kind of scrape everything down. Okay, so that should be good. And again, what we're looking for is to be nice and smooth. Late flavors, that's where you would use an extract. The other thing that I found works very well, by the way, is if you're making like the maple waffle or like something that's got that like waffle flavor, that French toast flavor, also adding in like a 1/2 tablespoon of the Scrummy Sweets,
Yes.
maple syrup,
Yes.
because that ups the sweetness and gives that maple syrup flavor baked inside of the French toast.
I really like that because, like Joe said, sometimes we eat this on the go. And so I will use the Scrummy syrup after the fact, like if we're sitting down.
They're promoting a maple syrup. I don't know anything about that at all. Typically all of the maple syrups I have seen, which I believe in this video they're talking about one that uses allulose, which the allulose ingredient is fine, but there's just a lot of junk in most maple syrups that I know about. So I haven't investigated the type that they're going to use here. But again, I just caution anybody that if you're gonna use anything, you need to really investigate the ingredient label to make sure that it's not going to cause inflammation issues or things like that. So.
Down and we're at a table, but if it's on the go, I like having the flavor of that syrup inside of the dough without any mess. It's not sticky.
Okay, now what we're gonna do is we're gonna take this, we're gonna put it in a pan, so we'll push that to the side. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna use a square baking pan. You don't want this to be really big. If you're gonna double the recipe, then obviously you can use a bigger pan. So this is the size that we're using. I don't know quite what size it is. I believe it's a 9x9 or 8x8. I'll leave it down below in the description. And we're just gonna go ahead and pour it in. Okay, it's been 30 minutes. Let's take a look at that. Look at that. That is so beautiful.
It rises
so
like a souffle.
So what we're going to do is we are going to just leave this in here. We're going to leave the door just cracked open a little bit. It is going to deflate a little bit. So we're just going to keep the door cracked like this.
When you're making things with eggs, you do want to make sure that you cool things slowly. Don't jar it, bring it out into a colder area quickly. It will cause it to wonk out a lot, so it'll fall a lot worse. But I'm gonna forward this to, they're cutting it.
I make a bunch of slices down the side. Sometimes I'll cut off the edges, but since it's just Rachel and I don't really care. But if I want to pretty it up for people, I cut off the edges,
the ugly sides,
like these little pieces right here, and just kind of eat them separately. But we'll go ahead and show you what one looks like just in the middle, and you can see, look at that.
Now, you know what that looks like actually, which is something that I could really get into, is it reminds me of like a kind of a dry version of a creme brulee, which I used to adore actually, but it looks pretty interesting. If the protein powder doesn't make this thing nasty, doesn't give it a nasty aftertaste, I'm all for trying this, and I'm going to try it. So if you want to try this, let me know what you think of it and whether or not you use that particular keto chow protein powder stuff, or if you left it out or use something different. I'm interested in what people's results are with playing around with these recipes.
And then, like we said, this goes really, really well with the Scrummy Sweets.
Yes.
We have a link for these down below. Super clean ingredients.
Best syrup.
Made with allulose.
It's like diner syrup.
It is awesome.
Yeah.
So I don't know how much you want on here on yours.
That's good.
So this Scrummy Sweet syrup stuff, I don't know anything about it. I'm going to look into it though, because depending on how clean it is and what it's got in it, it'd be interesting if there is a truly clean not gag reflex type worthy syrup, because I'll tell you what is nasty is monk fruit syrup. A lot of people like it, but bleh, that was the worst. That just tastes like crap. And then there's a lot of stuff that has a lot of maltodextrin in it or a lot of sucralose, and I'm not going to touch that with a 10-foot pole. Allulose is, I think, one of the better sweeteners based on the science and based on all of the information that we have now. I personally, most of what I use is stevia when I use sweeteners, which no is not carnivore, so please, don't call the carnivore police and send them after me. I don't know if this is a really good syrup. It could be. I mean, there's more products coming out that actually don't have a lot of garbage in them. They're getting better about it because I think the demand is there. People want things that are not going to make them sick and fat. So, supply and demand. I think a lot of people are getting off of the standard American diet train. This is another really simple idea that looks like it would be amazing. Like if you can eat cheese, it's something that I would never have thought about, but listen to this, it's pretty interesting.
For dinner, I made up some burgers with hidden liver in it, and I fried up some bread cheese to use as the bun. So I layered that with the burger patty, some bacon, and topped with another bun. It was so delicious. And I also had a glass of my favorite kefir. For dinner, I made up...
So that looks really good. I don't know what kind of cheese that is, but like if you slice cheese and put it around a burger, and like if you fried the cheese first and then use that as kind of like you would a bun, that looks really good. I wouldn't have thought to do that, honestly. This next short shows how easy it is to make taco shells out of cheese, which sounds like it would really hit the spot. Now, this is for somebody's on a keto diet, or they're eating keto friendly taco shells, but you could use the taco shells would be carnivore friendly because it's just cheese. So check this out.
I made some easy keto taco shells last night for the family and everyone loved it. First, heat up your flat iron on high heat. Next, lay on your shredded mozzarella cheese, rounded like tacos, flip it and let it cool. The hardest part is done. You can now put your favorite toppings on your tacos, guys. This is so easy and so much fun to do with the family. Let me know if you tried it.
It looked like he was going to burn them, like, because he had it on such high heat, but it looks amazing though in the image, like where he actually finishes it. So this makes me want to make taco meat or something, which I do eat spices. So if this would be something that I could do, because I could make taco filling with the chili powder and things like that. Don't bother me in small amounts. Like I don't eat very many spices, but that would be something I could do, because I could put cheese on it. I could also put sour cream on it because that's also carnivore. So interesting dinner idea. This next recipe is a common recipe amongst carnivores for casseroles. It's a meat casserole basically with cheeses.
I am preparing a meat and cheese casserole, and I'll show you what I put in it. So the first thing I'm going to put in is some ground beef. You can use a pound or two, depending on how much you want, of any kind of meat you want. So this is about 2.5 pounds of ground beef. And my whole family loves this recipe, so I want to be able to take it with us on Easter, and then I also want to have some left over for the week. So then I'm going to put some sausage in.
And then I cut up 2 pounds of chicken breast and added it. When everything was done cooking, I drained it. And then I added 3 bricks of cream.
I think that's pretty cute. It says, I love how no vegetables were harmed while making this. That was a cute comment.
Cream cheese, 1 cup of mozzarella cheese, and 2 cups of mixed shredded cheese, and then about a cup of bacon bits. Sometimes I make my own shredded cheese. This time I used packaged. Add it to a baking dish and cover it with cheese and bacon bits and bake at 350 for 10 minutes.
And there it is, fresh out of the oven. So good. And then you just cut it kind of like lasagna. Delicious.
So that is a go-to recipe that I use. It doesn't have the sausage, it doesn't have chicken in it, but it has the bacon bits and everything that would be on a cheeseburger, basically. Everything that would be on a bacon cheeseburger. Even the pickles. So you can leave the pickles off if you're carnivore, or you can just cook it with pickles but don't eat the pickles. So this next one is very interesting and odd looking, but intriguing. Let's take a look.
Let's make this bacon wrapped cheeseburger meatloaf thing. Grab a pound of beef and 1 egg and a ton of salt. Make it rain on the cow. Mix it all up real good. Grab some bacon. I used 8 ounces with no sugar. Make a little bacon bed in a 9x5 pan. Put half of your meat mixture down with 2 layers of cheese. Then top with the remaining beef and give it a little bacon hug.
I'm going to make a comment here. It creeps me out to nest any kind of cheese in the middle of a bunch of raw meat. I don't know if that's just me, but that really gives me the willies. I don't like it. I don't like to think of all that raw meat with, because I don't, okay, just saying.
Hug. Wrap it around. So cozy. Pop it in the oven at 350 for about 40 minutes. Then drain that grease off and you're going to set it down, grab a plate or a cutting board, put it on top and do a little flipperoo. Then throw in your air fryer at 400 degrees for about 10 to 15 minutes. If you don't have one of those, stick it in the broiler. You just want the bacon nice and crispy.
Okay, so the problem I had with that is, like I said, I have a bunch of cheese nested in a bunch of raw meat. I don't know. It seems like you're corrupting the cheese. Ugh, I don't know. But interesting, because I have made meatloaf. Now, I do make a meatloaf, which if you really miss meatloaf, you can make meatloaf and you can use pork rinds, pork rind crumbs, like the panko crumbs, and put that in a meatloaf recipe instead of using breadcrumbs. And it comes out really good. In fact, the rest of my family will eat the meatloaf. So, I mean, that's saying something if it's, these people are on standard American diet and they'll actually eat my meatloaf that's made out of pork rinds instead of breadcrumbs. So that's also another idea, and that's just a standard substitution, basically. So I saved the best for last. This last recipe that I always turn to, no matter how bored I get on carnivore, it always saves me. Always. It is always wonderful and always hits the spot. It is a dry rub for baby back ribs. And you can use it on the other types of ribs, the spare ribs. You can use it on spare ribs or baby back ribs. It works for both. But this is just how easy it is, honestly. I take about a cup, I would say, for two, like if you get the 2-pack baby back ribs from Sam's, I do about a cup of the it's got some erythritol in it, but it's mainly allulose and like a stevia mix kind of thing. It's a multiple, but it's not any of the like really crappy ones. I don't really want to eat a lot of erythritol, but it's got some in it. So it's kind of a blend of the sweetener stuff. And then I add the chili powder, and I don't measure anything out, but I add a bunch of chili powder. I add a bunch of onion powder and garlic powder. Salt and pepper, essentially. That's pretty much all you put in it. And then you rub it all over the ribs, and I do this here. Rub it all over the ribs and coat it really, really well. And then you put it in the aluminum foil. I use 2 huge pieces of aluminum foil, and make sure you wrap it up good because you don't want all of this stuff dripping all over your oven, because it smokes all to hell if you actually get it on the oven, but because there's a lot of fat that comes off of it. And then you close it up tight, and I cook it. I started at like 375 if I want it to cook kind of quickly. You really want to slow cook it. The slower you cook it, the better it comes out. But if I cook it at like 375 for about an hour and a half, or about an hour, a little over an hour, probably a little over an hour, and then I turn it way down to like 300 or something like that, and I let it cook the rest of the way. I'll cook it for about 3.5 hours, and it always comes off like super tender. So at the end, and I'll show you an image here of what it looks like in the end, it is amazing. No matter what I'm craving, if I make this recipe, it always hits the spot, and I'm not bored at all. So those are some ideas. I hope that helps. Maybe somebody who's looking for some kind of dinner solution. and you kind of just can't come up with anything, because sometimes that happens. You know, I've come home a lot of times where all I do is I make some bacon in the microwave and I'll eat some bacon, and that's all I want. I'll just have bacon as a snack. I don't know. Sometimes I don't want to bother with cooking, because one thing about being a carnivore is that you don't really get into all the, having all the ingredients and doing anything that takes any considerable amount of time is really annoying in the kitchen, because you know how people spend hours and hours making dishes and stuff. It's like you don't get into that anymore if you're a carnivore. You're so over that. If you want something quick and easy, these are some ideas, and I think most of these probably would turn out pretty good. I'm a little on the fence about adding the protein powder to that one French toast recipe, but I don't know. It looks like it could be a very promising recipe, so I'm definitely going to try it. Thank you for watching the video, and if you want to give me a like, and if you want to subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.